Hi everyone, welcome to a new Rhino user webinar. I'm Pedro, and in today's session, I'm excited to introduce Steen Jansen. He will explore building intuitive UIs in VIKTOR based on Grasshopper models, utilizing the VIKTOR API to seamlessly exchange data with Grasshopper, and crafting visualizations with Python and Plotly. So you will also learn how to conduct advanced structural analysis by transferring geometry from Grasshopper to VIKTOR. About Sting, he has a background in aerospace engineering, and he has also expertise in parametric design. Sting specializes in automating design processes to make engineering work faster, better, and more enjoyable. That's all from me for now. Just a quick reminder, there will be a Q&A session after Sting's presentation. So get your questions ready. Sting, now is your turn.
All right, Pedro, thanks a lot for the introduction and the possibility to present on Food for Rhino. Well, welcome everybody. Very nice to see so many people who joined, and I see in the names that it's from all over the world. So that's super cool. Yeah. So as Pedro already introduced me, my name is Stijn, and yeah. So I'm working for VIKTOR. My role in the company is that I'm responsible for product. And yeah, today, yeah, we will mainly, as Pedro talk about VIKTOR, Grasshopper, and Python, and how you can combine all three to automate your workflows. So I will share my screen. All right, so starting with our slogan. So our slogan is automate the boring, engineer the awesome. That's really what we stand for. And I think if you look at the people who work with Grasshopper, I hope at least that people have the same kind of feeling. What I notice is people who work with Grasshopper, of course, often think about how can you do things smarter. So that's also what we really stand for. And what we will talk about today is, first of all, I will briefly introduce what VIKTOR is, what our platform is. You can imagine not all people know that. Then how you can combine Grasshopper, Python, and VIKTOR. And yeah, I will show a lot of practical examples. So really just showing some Grasshopper scripts, some Python code, some VIKTOR code, and showing just some use cases how you can combine those. And then we'll end with how you can get started yourself also with combining these kind of workflows. So to start with VIKTOR, so what's our platform about? It's about empowering all engineers to automate workflows by creating apps fast and share them easily. So that's really what our platform is about. So we enable engineers mainly, but also maybe sometimes a broader public to automate your work, create apps, web applications, and share them easily. So yeah, the first part is really about the building. So how does this work? Our platform is mainly, an important part is Python, but also we have ways to generate apps in a no-code way. And in our platform, we have all kinds of building blocks. And the building blocks you can think about are ways with which you can easily create 3D visualizations, all kinds of input parameters which you can create or upload fields, or map views or graphs. And with these building blocks, we enable you to build this web app really fast. And you don't need to know, let's say, you don't need to be a full stack web developer to do this. So just by simple Python code or even parts of no code, you can create these web apps and then share them. One other very important aspect of our platform is that you are able to integrate and connect all kinds of different software. So for example, also Grasshopper, I will show that later, of course, that from VIKTOR you can connect to Grasshopper. But mainly how our platform is used is that it can connect all kinds of different systems and that you can in that way integrate such a workflow. And then another important pillar is that there's also a database or a data layer behind the VIKTOR apps. So that means that once you create an app, data is stored. And so to give an example, it's often used, for example, that you have multiple disciplines, that you have some structural engineer who's doing some work and then saves data. And then a geotechnical engineer, for example, also uses part of the data. So in that way, you have one central place from which you can combine multiple disciplines. And then the last part, that's about sharing. So once you have created this app, made some integrations, you can make it available. And there are two ways to do this. One is that you could create public apps, which are basically available for everyone to use. And another one, and that's that it's internal. So most of our customers have an internal environment. And then in this environment, you can share these applications with your colleagues. And then we take care of all the hosting, and you can set up your access control yourself. So you can say, okay, we work on a project, you add members to the project, and then add apps there. And then in that way, you can really nicely control who gets access to which apps. All right, so maybe this is a bit abstract still. So I would like to start with showing a case of things that you could build. And I think that this is a really nice case. So this was built to design crane foundations. And this is typically, of course, in such a design workflow is that multiple calculations and multiple software is used. So in this case, Grasshopper was used to create a 3D model and create drawings. Robot was a structural engineering, which is a structural engineering package, was used to do structural engineering. There was some code in Python done for some calculations and also some Excel sheets. And of course, Word was used to do reports. And typically, of course, these are all separate islands, but of course, some results from one goes into the other one. So the app which was created by, in this case, Luis. So he is a structural engineer with some Python knowledge, and based on that, he created this VIKTOR application in which he integrated all these different things. So how does this look like? This is how the app looks like. So it's an app from Vinci, a French contractor. So what you can see over here, so it will go through it quite quickly, is the VIKTOR interface. So you can see here that you have all kinds of input information, all kinds of input parameters that you can fill in, but also you could connect it to other data. Now, based on that, as you can see, 3D geometry is created, which is immediately visible in the interface. And also, what you can see here are results of all kinds of calculations and drawings that are being produced all in the single app. And complete engineering reports in these cases are just automatically generated based on all the parameters. So this means that this makes this whole process super quick because they can just fill in the input parameters and then generate all the calculations automatically. And of course, as you could see in the app, you have a lot of visual checking as well. So you can see, okay, you can present all kinds of things to make sure that it's not a black box, but actually it gives you a lot of insight. And in this case, this app they have developed, they were able to bring down the design time from 4 to 5 days back to 15 minutes, which saves them, of course, a lot of time. So we really see that, we really like this case of when she used our platform, and we really see a lot that these kind of reductions in time are possible when you automate such a whole workflow. All right. So now I'd like to dive in a bit in, let's say, Grasshopper, Python, and VIKTOR. So first of all, what's Grasshopper? Well, I don't think I need to explain here because everybody knows it. But the big question, of course, is what's the right tool for the job? And that's what I hope at the end of this webinar, that you have a better idea about when to use what. Because of course, what I really believe in is that by using the right tool for the job, it's just the best way to get to an end result. So of course, you can use also a screwdriver to put a nail in the wall. But it's not the most effective way. It's better to use a hammer. So I tried using Midjourney to create an image of a man hitting a nail in a wall with a screwdriver. Well, in this case, I think I didn't use the right tool to create this image because it doesn't make any sense. But it does show that something is going wrong. If you look at Grasshopper, what's that? Well, of course, you know this, but just to summarize, it's a visual programming interface on Rhino 3D. It's, of course, very excellent for parametric design, generative architecture, and, of course, a very strong point of Grasshopper is that it's user-friendly for non-programmers because you can use these blocks. Then Python. So Python is really a general purpose programming language. It's very versatile. So it's widely used. It's the most popular programming language in the world at the moment. So it's used among many industries. And what's a really powerful aspect of Python is that you have very extensive libraries for all kinds of use cases. So for data analysis, machine learning, also for engineering, also now more and more for large language models. So it's the ecosystem of Python. It's of course open source, is really rich and really strong. And then VIKTOR. So that's our product. As I already explained, so VIKTOR is really about a web-based platform to create mainly engineering applications. And it combines Python programming with creating a visual interface. And it's really about the deployment. So we facilitate with a platform that you have a central place where you can also deploy these web tools and give access to the right people. All right, so a few cases that I will show is to make this more concrete. How can you combine these three? Because at the end, what you would like to do, of course, is that you have a group of people using the right tools to make something everybody happy. So let's dive into the cases. So let's start with quite an often used case with VIKTOR in combination with Grasshopper. And that's, I think, quite straightforward. That's basically that you with VIKTOR you can create this interface. So you see here this VIKTOR app. I have some input parameters here that I can change, and on the background there's a Grasshopper model running. So this is just a Grasshopper model with, in this case, a ladybug plugin used. And what you can see is when I change a parameter, that the Grasshopper model is on the background run, updating, and the results, the visualizations are being sent back. In this case, you see a 3D visualization, but also some output parameters, which comes from the Grasshopper model. And this is really easy to set up. So we have tutorials for this. So there's really little Python or VIKTOR code needed to develop this. And actually, this is just available as a template. So this is one case how you could combine Grasshopper with VIKTOR, with some Python to create this web app. If you just go to this URL, you can use the web app yourself as well. It's public. But as I mentioned, it's also possible when you create such an app that you only give access to specific people. All right, so that's the first case. In this case, maybe people have questions about it. At the background, Rhino compute is running, which is updating the Grasshopper model. Then a second case. So what you see over here, this is a VIKTOR application, and this is typically something that what you can do with VIKTOR is that you can have input parameters, and then as also I showed in previous example, connect all kinds of different calculations. So what you can see over here is if I change width, we also have a geometry module in VIKTOR with which you can create also a simple 3D model. It's not as powerful as in Grasshopper, where you can do a lot of extensive things, also with, of course, all kinds of curved things. But we do have basic ways to visualize these kind of geometries as well. But what's a typical use case is that it could be that, let's say, a structural engineer is using this to calculate the bridge, and then you would like to continue in Grasshopper to make a 3D model in detail. But ideally, of course, you use the same parameters, which is defined over here, that you use these same parameters in the Grasshopper model. So how does this work? So I will just open Grasshopper, and I have a script over here. These scripts are all available at the end, so I will share the link where you can find them. But what I can do is this Grasshopper script. It's quite simple. I can just put the URL of this app in this field, and then what it does with this node, it pulls out the data. In this case, it's a JSON format. I don't know if everybody's aware of this, but it's quite a simple text format which is used all across the web. It's basically the standard text format for data. And what you can see over here is basically how you see the parameters in the web app. You can see them here as well. So let's say that if I would like to do something now with these parameters, of course, there are probably also plugins to do something with JSON, but what I would like to show is that, I think Python is in this case super powerful to do stuff with a JSON. So let's say that I would like to gather a few parameters from here and create a box based on that. So to start with building up this whole bridge. So I'm now using Rhino 8, and I think what's really nice about Rhino 8 is that the whole Python, how you can work with Python has improved a lot. You can use Python 3, and it's easier to install packages and all those kind of things. So I would really recommend also to try this out. So to start with, what I'm going to add here as an input is this JSON. And what I would like to reach is that I get the width, the length, and the thickness out. All right. And then basically I need to write some Python code. And I can imagine that maybe not everybody is, has a lot of knowledge of Python. And what I can then really recommend is to use some large language model, because these large language models, because there's so much Python code available, are really strong in Python. So I could, of course, write this myself, but in this case, I could say, okay, let's copy this content. And then I can ask in ChatGPT to use Python code to extract. Paste it in. Let's see, it's always, of course, exciting, a live demo. Because also it doesn't always give the same results. But what you can see over here, so it basically gives me the code how to do this. So let's just try to copy paste this into the Grasshopper node. copy paste this in. And then what I need to do is that instead of this JSON input, I need to, that's actually the input that I get, right? So I can just refer it to the input parameter that I just named it over here. And then let's see what happens when I now run this code. Does it actually work? That's exciting. So I think with sharing my screen sometimes, I guess it's a bit slower. This is always, of course, in preparation, this worked well, but I think that's nice, right? Because maybe it doesn't work and then we have to see how we can fix it. But maybe in the meantime, so if you look at this Python code, it uses some package, JSON package in Python. It creates some JSON data, and then it uses this function, puts in the JSON data, and it gathers the dimensions out of it. Okay, well, this is interesting. So sorry for that. This, yeah, never happened before. But let's just dive back in. I just need to restart Rhino. All right. Let's just restart password again. Oh, I think what's nice, of course, about this is that this is, I think, also what, of course, happens when you work with these kind of things. Sometimes it crashes. All right, so I will just go quickly over it again. To do this as well, of course. So that's maybe something that someone mentioned. Okay, how do you get access to this app? So basically, it works with how we do authentication is with an access token. Well, it generates this code. Let me now go through the Python code again. Just trying not to let me become too much to remain positive. All right, let's go for the width. Okay, I will make it a bit simpler by just gathering the width. But I think I can just use this again. Really hope that it will work. Okay, that's great. So what you can see here, that it extracts these dimensions and it does it in a nice way. And then, of course, well, that's what everybody knows. You can continue with this. But what you can see now is that once I now, let's say, change a parameter over here. So I change this parameter and I save it. If I now rerun the Grasshopper model, we compute. Okay, well, this is actually not working yet properly. So then I need to, yeah, that's of course something that I didn't do. I didn't connect it then. All right, yeah. So now it's basically working. It gives the width of 30. Okay, so that was the first part. So this is basically showing how can you get you have a Victor app, you have some data, how can you get that in, and how can you then work with that using Grasshopper. Another case which we often see is that there's a certain app with which you can do some calculations. So in this case, this is a Victor application in which you can do some beam deflection analysis. So what you can see is if I change the load, then I can get some results. So what you can see is it basically calculates, okay, how is this beam bending? And then it gives some results on the unity check, and also it calculates cost and weight and embodied carbon. So if I change some parameters, um, yeah, you see that it updates. Well, this is typically something, just basically an app. There's some Python code and a Python package behind this. So this is based on a really nice Python package called Anastruct, with which you can do these kind of structural analysis. What you can now do is I can basically use this as a calculator in Grasshopper. So I will just open another file. Compute. So what you can see over here is I have this block available, this Grasshopper node. This is also just a Python code, which I will also share. I will not dive into that now, but basically this is how it talks to to the API of the app. And what you can see now is that you can, with this block, it's just really simple. If I change the load, you can see, it goes quite quickly, but you see that it updates these kind of the unity check and the cost and the embodied carbon. So on the background, it's actually talking to this application. It just fills in these input parameters, but then from Grasshopper, and it gives your results back. So this is, I think, also a very interesting case where, so with Python, it's really strong to make these kind of such an application, because you have these kind of interesting packages. And then using Grasshopper, you could use this to integrate this in another flow. So what you could imagine is maybe you have some geometry, and then you would like to do some calculation already in Grasshopper on checking the structure, and then you could in this way use this app basically and this node to do that. Because I think typically that would be something to do this kind of structural calculation in Grasshopper. Of course, you have also some packages for that to do that. But in this way, it opens up also all the packages in Python. All right. Then the next one, the next example. That's basically to push geometry. So what you can see over here, let me just also show the Rhino of this. So this is just a Grasshopper model which parametrically designs this. Let's say it's a building, for example, but it can be all kinds of things. Well, this is, I think, what people know, of course, what you can do really well with Python, creating this parametric model. And what you can also do is, what I showed in the beginning, is that you can pull data, but what you can also do is push data to Victor. So what you see over here, I have an app available. And this app also with this app, you can do a structural analysis in this case. So there are a few examples on structural analysis because I knew there are quite a lot of AEC people also. So that's why we selected those kind of things. What you can see over here, just remove this one for now, is that I can, from Grasshopper, I can just push this model. And what it then does is that it has created an update. So that's the time at the moment. And it, as a JSON file in this case, again, updates this model. And then in this case, you can also visualize this just in VIKTOR immediately. But what of course often happens is that, for example, let's say that you're a structural engineer, and then you need to calculate this. So what you can then do in the VIKTOR interface is that you say, okay, I want to add some loads. So for example, I'm just adding a load over here. And so this is something that you can do in VIKTOR, that you can create these kind of web apps where you can make it quite simple for someone to do something with this and to also interact. And then the next step is that it does a calculation based on this. So there's also here again a really nice Python package called OpenSeas. And with this OpenSeas package, you can do these kind of structural analysis. Of course, also in Grasshopper, you have structural analysis packages available, but I think, all have these strong points. So for example, with OpenSeas, you can also do earthquake analysis, those kind of things. And what you now see is that it updates this based on this. So let's say it's a typical workflow, of course, something changes. So maybe, let's say that a few floors are added to this model. The only thing that I just now need to do in order to update this, I can just push the model again. So what you will see in the app, that it now created a new one. And you see that a few floors are added, the loads are nicely saved. And now I can rerun the analysis again. So this is typically something that we see that takes normally quite a lot of time, right? So let's say the person who is responsible for the architect changes something in the model, and then a structural engineer needs to do some calculations with it, and he sends the model, and then the structural engineer needs to update this in the model, and then this just easily can take days. And in this way, you can really connect these kind of workflows. And instead of connecting it to this Python package, you can also connect it to a finite element analysis package. So something like ETABS or STAT or a robot, which you can then use to run your calculation and generate your whole engineering report completely. Another variant of this, that's the final case that I will show. So this, I will share the link afterwards. So here in this blog, we summarized all these kind of different cases, and also the Grasshopper files you can just download here. And this is the final case that I would like to show. So what you see is that Python is very strong. It's used a lot for data analysis, and there are all kinds of really nice libraries to visualize graphs. And in VIKTOR, again, we support that as well, that you can use these kind of packages. So this is an example of, again, a Grasshopper model. And then, as you can imagine, it would be interesting to see, okay, what are the lengths of all these different parts in these kind of things. So the flow is a bit the same. You push the model to the VIKTOR app, and what you can now do is you retrieve the information, and then you can create these kind of nice dashboards. So it's now loading the dashboard, and then you can visualize these kind of things. So you can see, for example, okay, what are the types of lengths per beam, and these kind of charts are all nicely interactive charts. And yeah, this is typically something that Python is really strong in. So, well, in this case, a colleague of mine created this app in literally in an hour or so to make these kind of visualizations. And then with VIKTOR again, hey, you can make this available as a web app. So you can imagine often you have other people in your organization who need some information from your model that you're making. And with these kind of things, you can create dashboards which you can keep up to date in an easy way. And someone can just get access to this dashboard without needing to know anything or having any knowledge about Grasshopper or Rhino or having it even installed. They can just go to this web app and get information from this model. All right, that was the final case that I wanted to show. Let me go back to the presentation. So you might be wondering, hopefully now, how can you start with this? Yeah, what we have available on our platform is a free version. So if you go to our website, VIKTOR.ai, you will see this yellow button, start for free. And it could be maybe you are in a company which already uses VIKTOR, then you can log in with your company email. But if that's not the case, or you don't know it, you can also sign up for free. And then we have a free version which remains free, with which you can already test all the functionalities and create apps and also create public apps. With this, you can just get going. And if you go through this flow, you will also find all kinds of templates. So I will just show you how this looks like. So once you have then logged in and you want to create an app, I have different ways to do this. But I think what's really interesting is that we have all kinds of templates apps available. So for example, the app that I just showed, if you look at the Grasshopper, for example, it has the app that I also showed in the beginning with the sunlight analysis. You can just see this template, and then you can actually install this immediately and then start to adapt it. So in this way, you can really easily start to build these kind of apps and play around with the platform. And what you will see as well is that we have our documentation available. You will also be guided in there. But in our documentation, you can see that we have all kinds of tutorials. So one of the tutorials we have is on Rhino Grasshopper. And in this tutorial, you are completely guided through, okay, how does this work? How can I set it up? With this, you can really, quite fastly, easily get started with building these kind of apps. All right. So to summarize this, you can get started by going to this link on our webpage. The examples that I showed are available via this link. So that's the blog that I showed. I will also share the link in the chat. And of course, if you are interested or if you have more questions, of course, we have now still some nice time left for questions. But feel free to reach out. Via LinkedIn, you can find me. And if you have any ideas or feedback or questions, then please reach out. I'm very interested to connect and also to understand better what kind of things you see and how you could use VIKTOR or not maybe, and to understand those kind of things better. All right, so that was the part of the presentation. So now we have 20 minutes left for questions.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Sting, for your presentation. Let's take a look at the chat. See, Florian, for example, asked if do the environment have to be saved on a cloud, or can you run them locally as well in case of data security?
Yeah, yeah, that's a very good question. Yeah, so in terms of how our platform works, is that that runs on the cloud because at the end it's a web platform. So yeah, that's the main benefit that we have from a platform that you can make it available easily via the cloud. But what you can do is if you run your calculations, so for example, your Grasshopper models at some place or your Rhino models, you can connect that to your local, either to a local machine or to a virtual machine which you host yourself. And in that way, you can control that part and set it up how you would like to do it yourself.
Okay. Tushar also wants to know, for the example of being a structural analysis, what's the role of VIKTOR app? Can the Python script calculator not be integrated in Grasshopper without
Yeah.
interface to VIKTOR?
Yeah, yeah, that's indeed a very good question. Yeah, well, in this case, the function of the VIKTOR app is also that that's basically a tool which is already by itself can be used by people that they can just use this as a web app to do these kind of calculations. So that's one reason why the VIKTOR app is handy. And the other reason is what you sometimes see is that the when the amount of code gets a little bit bigger. So, for example, in this app, when you're working with Python and it becomes a bit more complex, then yeah, you would like to have sort of multiple files and also manage it in a Git environment and those kind of things. And then I can imagine that putting all that logic in one Python node or in one Grasshopper node can become, yeah, a bit difficult to manage. So the nice thing is that when you have this central block, then also in multiple Grasshopper models, you can all refer to that central block instead of having this, yeah, this node with this code in multiple Grasshopper models. So those are a bit the reasons why you would use VIKTOR for that.
Okay, the next one from Arthur's. What is the basis for carbon footprint calculations? Is there some ready-to-use Python package, or are you using your own VIKTOR solution?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good question. Yeah. So in this case, in this app, it's quite a simple calculation, which is indeed written in Python in the VIKTOR app. So it's based on a certain weight and then with a certain carbon footprint per material, it calculates it. So this is in this example, it was quite a simple calculation. However, I know that there are indeed also all kinds of Python packages available, or also software and services available to do these kind of carbon footprint calculations. So these are typical things that you could connect as well. Or I know that there are central databases available with certain information, and these kind of things you can also, basically integrate from your VIKTOR app.
Great, thanks. Jose Luis Rangel, hi, how can you control the access for an end client of my script or web app? The amount of uses, subscription.
Yeah. So what's possible is basically you can manage that yourself. So what you can do indeed with our platform, if you have, and that's then in the paid version of our platform, then you have this possibility to add users and give them access to specific applications. And the nice thing is what you could do, of course, is in the example I showed with the sunlight analysis, you can use the app, but you don't get access to the Grasshopper file. So you can keep that safe. And then you could, and that's also what some customers of us do again, that they basically also then use our platform to then again sell a SaaS model basically to other customers. So that's also possible on our platform, that you use our platform and then you could say, okay, I sell this with a service with a certain license fee, for example. So that's something that you can arrange by yourself.
And is Victor free forever, or do we need to purchase the app after a period of time?
Yeah, yeah. Very understandable question as well. Yeah, so basically, our free version is free forever. But as I mentioned, basically it has limited features available. So you can explore the whole development experience. You can also create public apps. But what you cannot do with the free version is that you have the whole adding users and those kind of things in our free version. So that's basically how our business model work. With our free version, you can do already quite a lot. But when you really want to manage it with multiple users, you need to have the paid version.
And can you create private apps using the free version, or do you have a limit of free apps?
Yeah, so you can create private apps, but only to use for yourself.
Okay, so you cannot share the link, let's say.
No, not for private apps. So you can share public apps with the free version, but you cannot share private apps with the free version.
Okay, so what's the difference between the free and the paid version?
Yeah, so it's basically the fact that you can actually create private apps and invite people on it. That's the difference.
Hugo Garcia wants to know if it's possible to add a button to download the resulting model or print the graph, for
Yeah,
example.
definitely. Yeah, so that's indeed a very good point. Yeah, so we have all kinds of tools to download models and also graphs and those kind of things. So that's indeed definitely possible and really easy to do.
Yep. Another question from Gael. What difference between your solution and ShapeDiver?
Yeah, yeah. Also an understandable question. We know them really well, the people from Shapediver. So they also have a really nice product. Yeah. So what you typically see is that yeah, what you can do with VIKTOR is typically that you have actually a workflow with also multiple integrations with other software packages as well. So that's how it's typically used. So I think ShapeDive is also a really nice solution if you just want to create a web app based on your Grasshopper model. But in our case, and actually we also work together with ShapeDiver. We have some examples online as well, where actually from VIKTOR you call the ShapeDiver API to run something, and then you continue with that in VIKTOR. Yeah, so there are similarities, but there are also differences between it.
Okay. Can you give an example where Victor could be used with Python machine learning packages, and what benefits Victor would bring to the table?
Yeah. Yeah, so this is something that it's used for quite a lot. So for machine learning or for large language models. So to give an example, for example, we have some of our customers who made a document searcher specific for certain documents, where they build a VIKTOR app, and the main reason for the VIKTOR app was that they could easily build this interface and give access to the right people. What you could do then in the app is that you could upload the document and then ask specific questions and get results. So what VIKTOR mainly brings is the fact that you can turn this into an app which is easy to use by people in a controlled way. So you can only give access to the people you want to give access to, and that you have the interface available. And that's mainly the benefits that VIKTOR would bring.
Sweet. Integration with Stripe or any other payment services available within Victor?
Yeah, so we don't in this case have sort of an out-of-the-box integration with Stripe. But we have, yeah, because yeah, with Python you have a lot of generic possibilities. So it should definitely be possible to integrate these kind of things. But yeah, we don't have that out of the box. So if you would, yeah, if you need more information on that, please reach out. Then we can dive into that.
Another question from Thomas. To get clear, Rhino Grasshopper is running on your server. How do I prepare a Rhino GH simulation local, and what do I send to your server?
Yeah. Yeah, and indeed. So in this case, in the example that I showed, the Rhino model or the Rhino Grasshopper is running on a Rhino compute server, and that's a server that we are hosting in this case. But what you can already do with another system, and that's also explained in the documentation, that you use a so-called worker. So you can also just connect the app to your local machine. So in that way, you can also just use all the packages that you have. And in this way, you can make the integration. You can also connect it to your own Rhino compute server. And when you would like us to host that, that's also possible. And then indeed we can make an agreement on that this Grasshopper model is actually just sent with the script, but then we just make this virtual machine available, and you can basically send the model to the server and get the results back.
Is it possible to extract some file as an output from the 3D app?
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe that's nice to show. So we have some standard exports available. So standard in the model, it's possible to export is a GLTF, STL, OBJ. So that's out of the box, but also there are ways to convert it into other types of geometry models as well. So that's, I think, also really nice. With Python, you have all kinds of packages. Let's say that if you want to convert it to IFC, you could use the IFC OpenShell Python package to convert it, and then you can add a download button, for example, to download it in that way as well.
Okay. Could the user authentication procedures be implemented in VIKTOR?
Yeah, so if I understand the question correctly, it's
Yeah,
mainly when
Anton Ivanov.
so I think what he probably means is that that the authentication of someone giving access to a specific app. We have that basically out of the box available. So in our platform, you have a user management system, and with this, you can make sure that specific people have the right authentication rights to be able to get access to specific apps.
Okay, so before you mention a document searcher, so this means apart from numerical parameters, you can use documents and
Yeah,
image uploads as well.
yeah, indeed. So that's also something that maybe I can also just quickly show. So next to indeed these kind of input parameters, we also have upload fields available. So in this case, it was pushed, but also you can upload a file in this way, and then you can say, okay, I allow a certain file type. So these are typical things that you can find in our documentation. So if you would be interested in the kind of things that are available in terms of input, for example, you can see all kinds of things. So you have indeed numeric input, textual input, but also upload files. And in this way, you can just, with one row of Python code, you can create such an upload file. Maybe also nice to know is that you can also have tables sometimes that can be beneficial. So you can also create these, sort of Excel tables as input. So there are a lot of possibilities next to numeric fields for input.
Adriana, is it possible to host the VIKTOR app in a company server instead of in the VIKTOR one?
Well, at the moment, not yet. So in this case, as I explained before, you can the interface is then running on our cloud. What we do offer is that it's a completely isolated environment. We also support multi-region, so you can choose where you want it to be hosted. So we have all over the world possibilities to host it, so that you can make sure, for example, when you're in Europe and you would like your data to be stored in Europe, for example, or in the US, you can store it in the US. And that's possible to choose, and then you can connect it to for calculations, connect also to your local, to local machines or to your own virtual machines.
And can we personalize interfaces?
So there's possibility for personalization. You have a way to where you can white label it, so you can add your own logo and your own color, those kind of things. And also we have indeed some possibilities for tweaking. But what's also good to know, there are limits in terms of personalization possibilities. So that's also, of course, since we have a platform with ready-to-use building blocks, that makes it really quick to develop. That at some points there's the flexibility. You don't have the full flexibility to completely make it. If you say, okay, I want the edge to have another, I don't know, radius, those kind of things. There are limits there, but so there are ways to personalize it, but you cannot go, let's say, all the way how you could do this with HTML and CSS and etc.
Okay. I think that your answer is also for the last question, Kyle. Okay. So Anton wants to know if he can host VIKTOR apps on his own web domain. Can I host VIKTOR apps on my own web domain?
Indeed. So what you can do, we have a way to embed apps. So that's indeed possible. So when you have a public app, you can embed it in your website. So how this works, that's also nice to show. So when you have this app, you could also embed it. So in this way, you can, in your own website, for example, you could put this as an iframe in the website, and then in this way, you can embed it in your own website.
Okay. Okay, Steen. Last question from Adriana. Do you have any examples with large scale projects, such as a city scale with heavy computation time?
We do. What I really like, one of the examples, just quickly share this. So if I can recommend to go to our website in the logs, customer cases. We have quite a lot of cases. For example, it's I think quite an interesting example is the Fehmarnbelt link. So it's a big tunnel project. So what I showed, indeed, those apps are quite relatively simple, the things that I showed, but what you also, you can really go really far with these kind of things. So this is an example of how VIKTOR was applied for this tunnel project. So it's a new tunnel between Denmark and Germany, and basically the whole structural analysis and part of the geotechnical analysis was done using a VIKTOR app. Yeah, so I think this is a nice example. And if you look at the customer cases, yeah, you can also find more, more examples of more extensive apps.
Great. Okay, Steen. Well, that's the end of this webinar. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah,
And yeah, thanks to the audience also for participating in this session. So hope you attend to the next one as well.
yeah,
And yeah, Steen, well, thanks again for your hard work.
you're welcome. Thanks everybody for joining and for all the questions. So I really enjoyed it, Pedro. So thanks a lot for the invite.
You're very welcome. See you in the next one.
See you.
Ciao.